Hi,
Awesome.
Masha. How you doing
Hey,
today?
all good. How about you?
Doing well. Yep, days off to a great start. Enjoying this fall weather that
Yeah,
is suddenly upon us.
I know. It's fantastic. I'm loving it. And so thanks so much for taking the time. You and I have crossed paths because we're both in a wellness space. We have a lot in common, and we wanted to make this recording, this video for anybody who is in charge of other people, right? Who are leaders, managers, who are in charge of leading a team. And we wanted to talk about regulating yourself while you're in charge of others. So this is a really true topic for us, both Hannah and I, because we're both founders, we're both leaders. We carry the vision and the weight of both of our businesses. We've been in business for about a decade, so we have that in common. We've ridden the waves of the businesses, the pivots. We know that in leadership, as I'm sure you guys can relate, is it's not linear, right? There's ups and downs, and it's kind of like a roller coaster. And another thing that Hannah and I have in common is we're both mothers. We're juggling the reality of having a family and leading our teams and managing our businesses. So that's why we're here. So thank you, Hannah, for being here. But let's do a little bit of an introduction. So Hannah, tell us a little bit about you, Balance Awakening.
Yeah. So I'm Dr. Hannah Yang. I'm a licensed psychologist, and I started Balanced Awakening in 2015 as a niche psychotherapy practice for women. And, we've really expanded and grown, kind of out of that as well. We are still a niche therapy practice for women and all things women's health. But now we see couples, we work a lot with relationships, we see teens, we see kids. So we've kind of expanded beyond just the female population, but we're still very focused on women's issues. We've also really expanded into somatic therapy, which is where Masha comes in too with yoga therapy. We have a lot of synchronicities and a lot of ways of kind of being able to serve people in complementary ways. So, um, we're here in Chicago. We're also in Miami. In Chicago, this is our home base in Chicago. I've got over 30 therapists on the team right now and 4 different office locations. So in terms of being a leader and holding the space for the team, I would consider myself an expert at this point in terms of regulating myself and the impact that has on the business and on the team. And I've learned a ton along the way. When I wasn't so regulated, what happens?
Mhm.
um, so I've got a lot to say on this topic. So thanks,
Yeah,
Masha, for giving me the platform to share
absolutely.
some of this with
Yeah,
everyone.
I'm super excited to dive into more of the topics, but I'll give a little bit of an intro to me and Vibrant Yoga. So I'm Masha from Vibrant Yoga, and we've also been around about 10 years. And we've started as a company where we travel into the people's homes, right? So we go into people's homes for private one-on-one session because I found that group sessions were not as effective for regulating the nervous system. There was a lot of people in the group session. You can't really get a lot of things done and focus on you. So that's where Vibrant Yoga really was born, from private sessions, and then we've expanded into the corporate realm. So we do a lot of employee wellness, a lot of corporate workshops, and different corporate events for employee regulation, because I'm not sure actually, Hannah, your history, but I come from a corporate world myself. And so that's kind of where that came from. So before starting my yoga business, I was in marketing and public relations. And, a lot of the corporate world was stressed, right? I felt that somatically. And so that's really the catapult, right, for Vibrant Yoga is, starting for corporate side. So we love serving employee wellness and leaders, because when leaders are regulated, then the whole team is regulated and the business thrives. And that's why we do what we do. So with that, the first question I wanted to talk about is, Hannah, why do you think that leader self-regulation is super important for the whole team and the business as a whole?
Mm-hmm. Because your energy sets the tone for everything. It really does trickle down. I like to say that I really run my business Balanced Awakening from the inside out, and it's constantly evolving as I evolve. Um, so and I've seen just over the years how what's happening in the business it just kind of reflects what's happening for me, or whatever kind of limitations I may be experiencing, how that kind of shows up in some way in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but just I'm a big fan of Mind Valley. It's a growth and learning platform, and I'm forgetting the name of this leader, but he's got a quest, which is a program on scaling to 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through that just to kind of see, like, what does he have to say? And one thing that really stood out to me that he said was, um, if you're having a bad day, don't go into the office. Like, do not, like, if something is wrong, like because your employees will pick up on it,
Mm-hmm.
and they won't have the context necessarily for what's happening.
Yeah.
Like, unless you tell them, I had a fight with my wife last night, and like, which you
Yeah.
don't want to do that. You don't want to put that on. But
Yeah.
um, it can easily get interpreted if you kind of go in and you're in a bad mood,
Yeah.
or things are kind of off because of a personal thing, that can easily get interpreted by your employees as, I'm doing something wrong, or
Yeah.
like, or something's not right in the business. And so those, you're always setting the tone. Like, your mood is always setting the tone, because
Yeah.
it's gonna come out, it's gonna be expressed in some ways. So it's not always practical
Mhm.
to, be like, okay, well, I'm just going to work from home today, but
Yeah.
taking some time to sort out, like, if it was a fight with your spouse the night before, like, what do you need to do to set your day, so that that can either be resolved, or like resolved in the short term, or compartmentalized in some capacity, where you're like, okay, this happened, I just need to, like, kind of put this in a box
Yeah.
and wrap it up, and I'll unwrap it after my day, but I need to get into the space where that basically is not in my, just kind of in my energy field going into work. So
Yeah.
um I think it's just really important to be mindful of where you're at in any given moment, and kind of what you're bringing to your team and bringing to your work environment as a leader.
Yeah, that's a great point. And this made me think of, like, is there space in the business world for like vulnerability and sharing that? Like, yes, you had a fight with your spouse and you're coming in with this kind of like murky, yucky energy. And but like you said, it's not, you need to still show up. You can't just like stay home because you had a fight. You still have to show up, and you're still kind of working through. Is there space to share, with your coworkers, with your colleagues, in a, not in a blaming way, like, not take it out on them, but obviously have the little practices for yourself, like you mentioned, right? And we do this a lot with yoga, right? There's a lot of self-regulating practices that we can talk about later, but I wonder what you think about that. Like, where's the vulnerability and the sharing piece with your coworkers come into play?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be different for every environment and every person. I think that it's important to have healthy boundaries and to not overshare,
Yeah.
and to kind of put whatever's happening personally, on your team or your employees, and be, sharing that. But maybe it looks like, you know, if you're just not if you're just coming in, you're just like not okay,
Mhm.
being able to say like, yeah, just there's some personal stuff, so I'm not kind of at 100% today, I'm at 70%,
Mhm.
or maybe there is some sort of barometer that you can kind of set, like when you come in, you're like, okay, my tank is about at 60% full today, just based on like what's happening overall in life.
Yeah.
So if I'm not fully on my game, or if I don't seem fully present, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And so is there maybe a way of being able to share where you're at without giving like those explicit details about what's happening, so it's not like kind of burdening someone, but just kind of showing up like, I'm a person
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
life has many dimensions and elements to it. It's not,
Yeah.
I'm not a robot showing up to work every day to be
Mhm.
100% on
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
um, so I think that's where vulnerability can kind of come into play, where
Mhm.
you're sort of represented as a more full human, but maybe not disclosing like all the details about what's happening, that's why you're at that 60%
Yeah.
or why you're at that 70%.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And, us being both in a wellness spaces, right? There's, I'm sure it is for you, for your therapist, same with, our yoga teachers, very open-minded people, right? Like we understand nervous system, we understand that stuff happens, right? That we're not robots. And so it sometimes can be easy, sneakily to mistaken that as like, oh, I can talk to them, right? Because they will understand, right? And a lot of times I do feel this way. I love my team. I love everyone on my team, and everyone is super understanding, and they're almost like my friends, right? Like I can treat them as my friends and we can talk about anything. However, there's like a really fine line when it comes to leadership, right? Where it's like, hey, you're holding up you're holding up the team, and maybe sharing too many details about your personal life could potentially damage the relationship. And so I'm always like on this line of like not knowing how much do we share, how much do we not, where is that line, right? Wanting to be vulnerable and open and seem human, right? And not seem like a robot. Like you said, we're not robots. So yeah, that's definitely like an ongoing process.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of differences between like the spaces that we're in this kind of wellness, like we're aware of mental and emotional things,
Mhm.
and the people on our team are their job is to like hold space for people,
Yeah.
in these kind of more complex emotional spaces. So I think it can be a little bit easier for us to kind of fall into that trap of, I'm going to tell them what's happening for me, but then that puts it can put a little bit of a burden on them to hold that for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Versus in in more of like a formal corporate setting,
Mhm.
like that might be like a leader that shares a little bit about what's happening personally, um, could really be refreshing and
Mhm.
welcoming in that space. If it's otherwise a more rigid and sort of boundaried space
Yeah.
around that, like, so I think it really has to do with the
Mhm.
context
Yeah.
of where you're working and what the company culture is, whether it's your own company or somebody else's, but you're a leader within that structure.
Yeah.
What is your role in setting the culture, and what are kind of the parameters that you have as a leader and how you can influence your team?
Yeah, I agree that when leaders come and share vulnerably what's happening for them in the corporate, environment, when I used to be in one, it was really refreshing, and it made me feel connected to that person. So that's kind of how I uphold myself as well in a leadership role. It's like, hey, I want to be able to share myself more with the team, without again oversharing or burdening somebody, but still feel like we are relatable, right? We're all humans. We're not robots. So yeah, I totally agree. And on that subject, I wonder what about the inner dynamics of like the team in the team culture? Like what happens when team members trigger each other, right? They don't get along, and like how are you as a leader manage that, right? Like how do you regulate? How do you help them get along? I think that's like one of the biggest questions.
Mhm. I mean, I think it goes back to your own energy sets the
Mhm.
tone.
Yeah.
So if you're getting along with everyone and setting the culture of we have mutual respect and we don't always agree, but the diversity of opinions and ideas
Mhm.
is great. That's actually what makes us more creative, and that's good for the business. So if it's like a team members disagreeing about uh, like I'm not I don't really see this too much at Balanced
Great.
Awakening,
Love
because I give people a lot of freedom to be themselves, and
it.
I encourage their diversity in their opinions about
Yeah.
things, and with the sort of broader alignment, like if you're aligned with what we're about at Balanced Awakening, and if you're aligned with me, then you're gonna yes, you might not like see eye to eye on exactly how something should be done or could be done, but you also are in this space where it doesn't things don't have to all be done the same way. People can
Mhm.
kind of so I think that I just have created a culture of like
Mhm.
embracing differences, and
Mhm.
how that, makes the team much more powerful.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, this made me think of when you said it's if you are right, you're at the top, if you regulate yourself, right, then the rest of the team feels safe. And I really think that there's something to say about like that co-regulation, right? You co-regulate together. So if an employee comes to you, a team member comes to you, and they're just not having a great day, right? And if you are regulated yourself, then you are able to send your positive energy to them, right, to regulate them. And so I wonder, to say to that, like what happens or what ripple effect can happen if you are not regulated. Say you are frazzled and having a bad day, and then you have what happens in the body, in the mind, and just in the business.
Yeah, I mean, it snowballs. It snowballs.
Mhm.
Everybody, not, especially those who are vulnerable are gonna like feed off of that energy and gonna feel that, and that's gonna create it's gonna maybe bring, not create necessarily, but bring out whatever chaos or negative stuff is there for them. It's going to kind of invite that out, because it's coming out for you, so it's kind of like permission, like, okay, it can come out
Yeah.
for you. I mean, I think about this as a mom of three kids as well. It's that co-regulation. Like, if I am not right, my kids are more likely to have a tantrum and to be screaming. But when I'm feeling good about where I'm at,
Mhm.
they're much more calm as well. So the same dynamic plays out in some capacity in the workplace. So whatever you sort of know about co-regulation in the parent-child dynamic, there can be some parallels to that
Mhm.
in the corporate environment.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely. I think of it as like it's contagious, the energy is
mhm.
contagious. So your energy that you're coming in with is contagious, right? And I
Yes.
think of it as there's a lot of power in that. It's like, hey, I have control over how this meeting is going to go, or how this relationship is going to go, or this whatever, right? And there's a lot of power to that, but I also feel like there's a lot of pressure too, to like always feel regulated at all times, right? Because you feel like, okay,
Yes.
I'm the leader of these kids. I'm the leader of this company. I'm the leader of this, group. Um, I just wonder when you think about that, like the pressure to always feel like you have to be good all the time, right? Like I have to be constantly regulated. I wonder what you think about that.
I think that's too much pressure, and that's going to cause dysregulation.
Pressure, just think about the pressure.
Yeah, because it's not about perfection. I mean, this is still about being a human and showing up as best as you can.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's where some transparency with good boundaries comes into play. And I keep thinking about like coming into the office and setting your thermostat so that people know like where you're at in terms of how
Mhm.
much energy and focus do you have in this moment to focus to be present at work,
Yeah.
and like kind of using that as a signal. So it's like, okay, I've told everyone, if they're looking at this, that I'm at 70% today. So they're going to cut me some slack if like things don't seem perfect, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and yeah, I don't, I think it's more about the intention behind this, not
Mhm.
so much the pressure to be on and to be regulated and to keep yourself contained. It's more the like being thoughtful about it and being intentional. Like, I know it's best if I come in a more regulated spot. So is there
Yeah.
something I can do for 5 minutes before work so that I can get 10% more regulated? Like,
Yeah.
right, like set like realistic expectations and break it down in a more realistic
Yeah.
way. And that's all you have to do. I mean, it's the same thing with being a parent. Like, you can't be a
Mhm.
perfect parent, and
Mhm.
you also don't want to be a perfect parent. You want to be a good enough parent. So you
Yeah.
want to be a good enough boss, a good enough leader as
Yeah.
well. That's that's going to be the best for your employees.
Mhm.
So, you know,
Yeah.
anything that the literature says about
Yeah.
being a good enough parent versus being a perfect parent and the outcomes of on the children,
Yes.
it does apply in this situation as well. So think about that. If you're feeling pressured to like to be that perfect
Mhm.
leader, think about that. That actually doesn't create the
Mhm.
best employees.
Yeah, because you don't want to model perfection, right? You don't want to model that you're always perfect and all of your expectations are so high, right? Because your expectations for yourself are
Yep.
so high that nobody will ever reach them. That's, I think, is where I struggle at as a leader myself. It's like the expectations for myself are so high, right? Like even my question was like, how do you deal with the pressure? And thank you for like, grounding me in that, because you're right. It's the intention behind it. We're not robots, we're humans. And we don't want to model that perfection for our team. And I think that helps us as leaders, because all we think about, at least I think about them, right? It's like outwardly, like how are they doing? Are they okay? Right? So this perfectionism comes sort of like worrying about them. But if I think of it like, I don't want to model perfection because I don't want them to feel the pressure, right? Whether they're my, team members or my kids, then that shifts the perspective and I'm able to like chill and go, okay, the intention is for everyone to be human. That's okay. So I love it.
Yes.
Okay, cool. This is great. And then, so what are some of your favorite practices? So like to regulate yourself, or when you do feel that, triggering sensations rising, and you need to get into work or you need to get on the call. What are some of your favorite practices?
Hmm. Um, at this point, I don't have a lot of practices that I do kind of in the moment. I've really embodied this as a lifestyle.
Cool.
So like personally, I get a massage pretty much every week.
Awesome.
I I'm off on Mondays. I'm off the last week of every month. Like, so I have a lot of I don't check my email outside of my regular working hours. So I've created a lot of space for me to just kind of think and be with myself and be creative, which
Mhm.
is my nourishing place. So then
Mhm.
when I am team facing and interacting with the team, my energy is kind of in the highest place.
Yeah.
Um, I would say that one of my favorite longtime practices now has been David Elliott style breath work. And you can listen to his breath work audios on Spotify. Um, but yeah, I learned this about 10 years ago. And I haven't found anything more effective at just making anxiety just kind of exit my system
Mhm.
and become like just kind of coming back into a more calm state. So that helps me release if there's something intense in the moment, and I know I need to shift into that leader role.
Yeah.
That is something that I'll do. I love the 7-minute practice on Spotify. It's the
Okay.
shortest one. That's enough. 5 minutes of the active
Yeah.
breathing, 2 minutes of regular, that's enough
Yeah.
to get me into a better state. So there
Yeah.
are lots of things. And Masha, you probably have more to say about
Yeah.
those kinds of practices too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so is his breath work any different from anything else? Is it like specific breath work that he uses? I'm curious.
It's pranayama yoga breath work. It is one breath in the belly, one breath in the
Mm,
chest, and out the mouth. So it's
gotcha. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes, I'm
like
familiar with
that.
that breath. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm a big fan of breath work, as you know. I mean, we just, being in the yoga wellness space, breathing is so, I don't want to say mandatory, but it's like the foundation of any yogic breath or any yogic movement. And
Mhm.
it is probably the most studied, research-based strategy for relieving anxiety, panic, just overwhelm, right? Just when you become in control of your breath, you become control of your life, right? So it doesn't have to be anything specific. I love the specificity of like chest, chest, belly, exhale, right? Because that focuses the mind. You have something to focus on. But I also just love like close your eyes and just deep breath, right? It doesn't have to be anything specific. It's just breathe in until it's comfortable and breathe out until it's comfortable. So it's a full breath in and full breath out. And just that alone, just focusing on the in and the exhale, just noticing already has a great effect. And so for people who are like, oh, I'm not good at meditation, I hear this all the time. I'm not good at yoga. I'm not good at meditation. You don't need to be good at it, right? You just need to focus your attention on your breath, on your body. How is my body feeling? And this is kind of what we do, right? Which is why people love to come into yoga class, because they're allowing this hour to themselves to really focus in on the breath, really focus in on the body. What is my body doing in space? And people walk away like, I feel so good. I feel so regulated. I'm like, why is that? I'm like, because you just spent an hour focused on you, right?
Yes.
And a lot of times we
Yes.
go through our days, we're not focusing on ourselves. We're not focusing what's happening in our bodies. We're not listening to body cues. Am I hungry? Do I need a nap? Do I need to close my eyes? Do I need to step away from my computer? We're not listening to cues. So that's what happens in a yoga class. It's like you just become more aware. And what's beautiful about it is the more you do it, it's like compound interest, right? The more your body becomes it becomes natural. Then you become more regulated naturally. Kind of like what you said, Hannah, it's like my lifestyle now, because you've already integrated all of these practices. Your body just knows, like, I know what I need to do. I know I'm not checking my email, etc. Right? So that's why we love yoga so much, is because it compounds on itself. So like one yoga session isn't going to work, just like one therapy session isn't going to do anything. You need the consistency. You need the consistency in your body, in your mind, but also the support, right? Like both you and I have the system of it's one-on-one support. I know you guys do group work as well, but it's like the support of a person, right? It's the support of an individual to hold space for you is so healing, right? You have that alone, I know in my experience when I would go to a doctor's office or something and I'd be super like nervous about something that was happening, and just talking to this doctor and them listening fully has like relieved me and gave me hope. They gave me no medication, no supplements, nothing. They just sat there and listened really deeply. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so heard. I already feel better. Right. So it's like, it's
Yes.
amazing what happens in the mind. That it's a two-way street, right? Mind, body, mind, body, mind. And so it's cool. It's fascinating. I love it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So awesome. Okay, cool. Let me see what else we wanted to chat about. Just looking at my notes. Okay, well, let's talk about what happened. So you're in the therapy mental health space and we're in the yoga space, right? So a little bit like how do they complement each other? Tell me more about like what does therapy do? And let's get back into like the leadership role, right? Like how could, and I know you mostly work with women, right? Like your practice work mostly works with women, but I'm guessing men are welcome, right? Or
Mhm.
all genders. And just tell me more about that. Like how does the therapy weave into that?
Oh, it can help in so many ways, and it really is going to be specific to the person. Sometimes for leaders, therapy starts out focusing on work specifically and how do I kind of manage work. Sometimes it can be more of like logistics and time management and boundaries. We can work with all of that and understanding the environment that you're in and the demands of the environment and the expectations that are placed upon you. We see attorneys a lot. We see medical professionals, and so we understand those worlds
Yeah.
and how they can really be quite demanding.
Mhm.
Um, so it can focus on what's happening at work, but it doesn't have to.
Mhm.
And it can, because like that's you are a whole person with lots of different things. So
Yeah.
lots of different things are going to impact the way you show up at work as a leader.
Mhm.
So like I mentioned the, argument with the spouse kind of situation and
Mhm.
how that. So we can do imago relationship therapy with you and your spouse to help you communicate better on a day-to-day basis and kind of understand what's at the root of maybe some common conflicts and resolve that so that you can just kind of move more smoothly throughout your day-to-day without that resistance from conflict that might be happening in your relationship. And then you don't even have to apply as many self-regulation tools before going into work.
Yes.
So we can really approach this from many different angles, and kind of like whatever we do with you in therapy is going to either directly or indirectly impact you as a leader in your role as a leader. So lots of things we can do, and all of it's going to help.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like when the way I think of therapy too, having done a lot of therapy myself over the years, is like unpacking patterns and discovering beliefs and how are those beliefs are blocking you from like full success that you could be having, right? So your fight with your spouse or fight with, a team member could be a pattern that is something, there's like a depth to it. There's something else underneath, right? So I love that there's like this approach, like the cognitive, like let's identify the patterns, right? And then the way the yoga falls into that, it's like let's embody that experience, right? Let's cognitively understand what's happening, and then let's somatically go into the body and embody the skills that you're learning in therapy, which is why I love them together, right? People who come to you for therapy and come to us for yoga see tremendous results and just like overall
Yes.
well-being and mental clarity, and that translates into all aspects of their lives, right? Like everything is
Yes.
connected, right? Your work life, your relationships. And it made me think of like back in the olden days, right? The old ways of working, right? When it was like you just come to work and you're told what to do and there was no autonomy. It's different, right? The way we work now is different, but I feel like the mindset and just the body has remembered the old patterns, right? So it's almost like we have to unlearn the old patterns through mental health and therapy, and then embody that in a yoga practice, and then we like update our software, right? I think of it as like updating our software on our computer. Like we almost need to update the software, and then we're like, oh, here I am, right? So yeah, great. And then together they're great. They give the insights and the practice, and they teach the body to feel good in your skin. So
Yeah, I think that embodiment piece, like in therapy, yes, we're talking, and you might understand something in your mind, and but then adding that element of yoga
yeah.
or breath work can help you bring that what you now know into your body and help teach your body that it is safe. Your
Yeah,
new identity with your new understanding up here, it's safe to implement, integrate, and your subconscious can kind of let that settle in.
absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Well, one practice, that I recommend from just a takeaway that from this episode is breathing, right? It's a super simple breath. We can look up Hannah's and we can link that too for David. Was it David's? David's
David
breath?
Elliott. David
David
Elliott.
Elliott's breath, or just taking 3 deep breaths. So before maybe you going into a meeting, or before making a decision, or before hopping on a call with a team member, taking that breath and just setting the intention to do good, right? Like you're there to do good and be with your team in the most regulated way, because the ripple effect is big, right? You as a team member, as a leader, have that effect and have that power to affect others. So simple deep breaths in, deep breaths out, and that helps to communicate to your nervous system that you are safe, that you are okay, and communicates calm to everybody else. So yeah, any last parting thoughts, Hannah, before
I'm
we
doing
wrap?
those 3 deep breaths right now and
Yes,
feeling
yeah,
better. Just it's
yeah,
nice to just like be reminded, like,
yeah.
oh right, I can pay attention to that and slow that down and yes,
Mm-hmm.
drop into that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that's powerful.
Yes, and that reminds me too that a lot of people think and assume that people in the wellness spaces are just like they got it, right? Like, oh yeah, she's a yoga teacher. She's like she knows how to do handstands and she should be super regulated, or she's a therapist. She needs to like she's on top of her game. She has no triggers and she's good to go. That's not the case. A lot of the times we're still human, right? We keep going back to this. We're not robots. We're still human. We still have the, we all have the amygdala response and the fear response and the trigger response. And so learning these tools is imperative and super important for all of us, right? No matter what industry we're at or what constitution we might be, whether we run hot or cold, as a temperature, super important for our own well-being, but for others around us, because we're not an island, right? We operate in relationship with our kids, our families, our team members. So as a leader, super important to regulate yourself through the breathing, having support for mental health and moving the body. So, and if we can help you do that, we would love that. At Vibrant Yoga, this is what we do. We come into the home for private sessions one-on-one and into the corporate work. So we come into your workplace and we offer sessions for your employees, for the leaders, anything from yoga, movement, meditation, breath work, as we talked about, as well as workshops, right? Just educating your team on what is stress, right? Just having that awareness is could be profound as well. And then I'll let Hannah kind of take it away with what you guys can offer in terms of that.
Yeah, so right now we are primarily working one-on-one with individuals and couples. And just visit the website balancedawakening.com and you will see a ton of information. Hopefully it's not too overwhelming, but it's a lot of good information about our services, our office locations. We're telehealth throughout Illinois. So if you live in Illinois, we can see you. And like I said, some of our specialties, somatic therapy. So if you like the idea of incorporating the body a little bit within the psychotherapy session, we've got you there. And yeah, we've got therapists with all different kinds of specialties, and there's going to be someone who resonates with you.
Exactly. Yeah. So both Hannah and I have, a team of, we have instructors and therapists who, again, we match right with the right instructor
Yep.
and the right therapist to the client. So it starts with an intake, kind of understanding the goals, understanding what we want to do, and then matching with the right support person. So yeah, so if this resonated with you, feel free to reach out to us. We're vibrant.yoga. There's no .com, just .yoga. And yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much, Hannah, for taking the time to chat. It was super insightful conversation. I loved it.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks for, inviting me.
Of course, absolutely.